APMP's content manager, and you are watching On the Record with APMP. I'm excited to be joined virtually today by La'Sontayia Belle. La'Sontayia is the Director of Proposals, and she's here to talk to us today about what it really takes to inherit a struggling team and rebuild it. We're so happy to have you on the record.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So sometimes when you step into a team or a new department as a leader, um, it can be kind of clear, I suppose, that things aren't quite where they need to be. What do you what do you think are the signs that a team isn't functioning very well when you drop it?
Well, there are a few different signs that I've noticed when it comes to teams not necessarily meshing well together, and that there were broken processes in place. The first thing that I notice is that generally there is a lack of institutional knowledge, which in proposals and is very important, especially when it comes to past performance, how well we've performed on an effort. Do we have a nice and detailed past performance record to where we can draw from in our experience section? Another thing that I noticed is a lot of times companies have all these tools to use for proposals, but there's nobody to manage the tools or no one that has adequately trained the team on these tools. So they're kind of going to waste when they could either, be replaced by something else, or that we can learn these systems and they expedite the proposal process. Um, Another thing that I've noticed is that there is a little bit of an underlying fear-based culture there. Um, Proposal managers are afraid to speak up for what they need, or it's hard for them to completely run a process because things are so broken, they don't know where to start. Um, and I'm not saying that's for, every organization, but I've worked at some larger ones, some smaller ones, and just generally across the board, those are the things I see when there's an issue in the proposal department.
Yeah. And I can imagine when you're stepping into a leadership position and things are kind of like that, it can be tempting to identify all the problems and want to fix them all right away. Um,
Absolutely.
how do you think that works? Do you recommend solving everything right away or taking it a little slowly?
I that was my first lesson learned, right? I absolutely do not recommend trying to go in and fix everything at once. It will cause mass confusion. And we're people, right? We need time to get acclimated to new things, new processes. So I kind of I follow a three-step triage method. First, we go in, first 1 to 30 days, you go in and you identify where's the bleeding, where's the gaps, where are the holes that need to be fixed immediately. And then you prioritize those gaps. This is also a perfect time, since you're coming into a new team, to have these one-on-one conversations with your proposal managers, your writers, any resource that you have, because they're on the front line and they know exactly what's wrong, how long has it been broken, and they may have some ideas on how to fix it that no one is listening to. So once you prioritize your gaps from most important to, I don't necessarily want to say least, because in proposals they're all important, but you really want to prioritize what needs to be fixed first. And that's where you have the second part of my triage process is you stabilize. You start to identify those quick fixes. Okay, past performance is out of date and we need to update it. So this is the time as the director to step in and set those 30-minute meetings with your program managers, your project managers, and go through the old past performance and ask them what has changed. Have we uh, de-scoped? Have we added more to the scope? Are there any kudos, any metrics that we can use to really vamp up this past performance to where it's relevant and we can clearly demonstrate our company experience? And in solving micro problems like that, you can generally get a good feel on who the strengths of your team. You may have a person on your team that is really good at writing past performance. So then now there's an initiative you can pass on to that person. It's helping build your past performance library. It's giving them a small win and upskilling them, and it's fixing one of those holes. Another gap might be lack of reusable content. This is where you start going back and reviewing your winnable proposals and pulling those management approaches, staffing approaches, technical approaches, sanitize them, and then store them on a shared drive so that your team can just plug and pull when it comes time to spin up a proposal. And then the third part of my triage is to rebuild. Now that you have identified your gaps, now that you have a game plan going forward, you can now put in place those processes that keeps this moving forward, keeps this as a well-oiled machine. It also gives you even greater depth into your team, their strengths, where they're weak at, and you can identify training for them to go through later as a way to grow and strengthen your department. And the one thing that I really like about this particular method is that it's easy to cross-train your proposal people. If you have one that is strong in past performance, have them lead the past performance revamp and then pull in someone else to help find the information. It teaches them the past performance. It teaches them all the things that they need to look for to make a very well put together past performance. And now you have a secondary person just in case your initial person goes on vacation. You'll always have a way to close that gap. So, no, do not try to fix things all at one time. Definitely take little bites, and it's like putting a puzzle together, one piece at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was something you said there about like kind of getting to know your people as well and where they shine. I suppose that that can help you triage in and of itself and it can help you build a game plan.
Absolutely. Um, I typically start with your most senior person because they're the one that has seen it all. They kind of know what works and what doesn't work. And this also gives you the opportunity to talk to them, see what motivates them, what do they prioritize, because there could be micro fixes there with your employees that you can start to put in place. Okay, I know this person is motivated when everything is in a well thought out process. So you work with that person and create small steps. This is what we're going to do first. We're going to start with our schedule to make sure you build out yourself enough time in the proposal process. We're going to get you comfortable speaking to those stakeholders that you need information from. And what I mean by find out what motivates someone, say she has a kid she's trying to get through college. Now you have that personal bond, right, with your team member, and you can go and ask, hey, how is your son? How is your daughter? And it opens up the lines of communication to where your team member is now more comfortable with you. So therefore, they'll be more comfortable coming to you when there's an issue that arises in the process.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying at the start of where there's this fear-based culture when you walk in. And I imagine building trust again in a fear-based culture can be a little bit difficult. Do you have any tips on how one might start?
I believe the best way to start is by having a just all hands meeting. Create a safe space for your team and become personable to them. Get to know them and say, hey, I'm not here to make your jobs harder. I'm not here to add more stress. I'm here to take that stress away from you so that you can have better productivity so that we can have a better output. You have to actually become invested in your employees to get the best um, output out of them. There are studies um, that I've looked at with APMP, with Gallup, with all these different journals, and your most productive employees are your happiest ones. And
Yeah.
you make an employee happy. You get them to that happy sweet spot by investing in them personally. I'm not saying that you have to know their whole family tree, but if you know that what's important to them, you can really form that relationship with your employee.
How shifting gears a little bit to talk about, this triage process, kind of in line with everything else we've talked about, how do you decide what needs to be tackled first?
I typically like to start with recent proposal losses and why we lost.
Right.
I collect all the debriefs, I analyze them. Did we lose based off of non-relevancy with the past performance? Was our technical not strong enough? Was it a pricing issue? And once you get a nice collection of your debriefs and you can start recognizing the trends, you want to start with the highest priority. If we have 10 debriefs and on 8 of them we lost based off of past performance, that's telling me that's the first thing that needs to be fixed, right? So you want to look at where there have been failures along the way and then rank them according to levels of importance.
And what's the kind of the time scale for this? For, going from a kind of disjointed team to a high functioning team? What kind of time scale should we be looking at here?
I believe you will start to get a firm picture right around that 90-day mark because you've been there long enough to kind of see all the different parts of the department, the output of the proposals. So that's why I broke the triage method into 30-day increments. 1 to 30 is identifying the problem. 31 to 60 is prioritizing and starting to fill those gaps. And then 61 to 90, you really start to see the change because now you know how to lay your process out. And the thing about it is, just like with the typical Shipley proposal process, is that once you start to see the overall picture, you can go back and make micro tweaks if this person wasn't the right fit to learn how to write past performance. Let me identify someone else who can jump in. So it gives you about 90 days, you can see whether or not the small incremental changes you made are starting to work. And if they are not, go back to the drawing board.
So when we're talking about investing in our teams, what does that look like to you?
To me, investing is always something that's going to upskill your team, something that's going to help grow them, develop them, and make them better. The easiest way to start investing in your team is by doing monthly brown bags. Have a, a day within the month where you set aside an hour, maybe 2 hours, bring in lunch for the team and go over a training topic. If you want to redefine your color review process, come up with a 45-minute long presentation, sit there and walk your team through the steps to reinforce what you would like that color team process to look like. Get their feedback, ask them what's going to work and what's not going to work, right? Because they're the ones on the ground doing this day to day. So they know that one particular person may need longer than 24 hours to review. And while you're having these in-house training sessions, that is another way to kind of strengthen your stabilization process, right? Because now you're learning different ways to solve these problems that you may have not thought of on the front end. Another way to invest in your team is to do offsites. If you have the budget to do a quarterly or a yearly offsite where you can actually get your team out of the office and get them in a relaxed environment, you tend to get more information out of your team that way as well. Um, One of my favorite ways to invest in your team is to send them to training. If you know that APMP is hosting a webinar, if they're hosting an event, a conference, any side organization that are holding events, send your team. You may not be able to send them all at once, but if you send one person at a minimum, they can bring that information back and strengthen the team. And now everybody has a new way to think of things or a new way they could implement a tool to get better at their job.
Absolutely. And it seems like a lot of your method does involve really building that culture and um, a collaborative, trust-based culture. What do you think a lot of leaders might underestimate about the link between building that culture and the eventual performance outcomes that come out of that?
I think the key thing that is missed is that um, leadership gets caught up in the bottom line and productivity, that they forget to go back and look at the process. Is it working?
Mhm.
And actually having those in-depth conversations with the people who actually do the job so that they can identify changes that need to be made. We have developed this culture to where we tend to manage up first because we have bottom lines, we have strategic goals. A lot of times with that, we forget to manage down and actually talk to the people on the front line and see what it is that they go through on a daily basis, what processes are working and not working for them. I think if leadership has these one-on-one conversations with the teammates, then they'll find that a lot of these broken pieces really require small adjustments in order to get them working again. And then plus your team feels heard. And it definitely, now you have a well-rounded culture because you have leadership involved as well. So that's my recommendation, is to just remember to actually get the input from the people who are doing the day-to-day task and see what works well and what's not working and make them feel included in the overall solution.
So, if a listener is about to fully take on leadership of a team that isn't quite working at this point, if they could only take one or two things away from this conversation, what would you want those things to be?
I think the biggest thing is what we touched on. You cannot fix everything all at once. You can't transform without the team's trust. So you have to go in and bit by bit, and get the input from the team. Another thing is break it down into phases, triage, identify what's bleeding first, where we have gaps and holes. Stabilize it by putting in a plan to fix these holes, and then rebuild it by backing up those plans with process.
Thank you so much for joining us on the record today. It was lovely to talk to you.
It was lovely to have this conversation with you as well. Thank you so much.